Your Excellency, Sheikh Mayasa bint Hamad Al Thani, Your Excellencies, members of the board, Mr. Ayman Muhyiddin, members of the faculty and staff, members of the Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service class of 2023. And members of the Executive Master in Diplomacy and International Affairs class of 2022 and 2023. Welcome to the commencement exercises of Georgetown University in Qatar. Please remain standing for the national anthems of the State of Qatar and the United States of America. Please be seated. The invocation will be offered by Muhammad Carter, class of 2023.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. خلق الإنسان من علق. اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغنى إن إلى ربك الرجعى صدق الله العظيم. Inshallah, I will recite the translation to this chapter. In the name of Allah, most merciful and compassionate. Recite in the name of your Lord who created man himself from mere cell masses clinging fast at womb's wall. Recite while your Lord is noblest in grace, who taught by the pen, taught man what he knew not. No, indeed, but man will certainly transgress all bounds, merely out of seeing himself beyond need for the divine or faith. Verily unto your Lord is the final return.
Thank you, Muhammad. Now, one of the most sacred rituals at commencement is to acknowledge at the outset the absence of members of our community who are no longer with us. This morning, we dedicated our library to the memory of James Reardon Anderson, GUQ's founding dean. And now, I would like to pay tribute to a member of this graduating class who is no longer with us. On November 1, exactly 1 month after I had arrived as dean, we lost a dearly beloved member of our community. Ishil Yaqub Khan would have been seated in this room today amongst their peers in the class of 2023. Ishil's tragic death broke our hearts and brought us together as a community. Together, we celebrate Ishil today and we hold dear Ishil's memory. Tonight, 105 graduates representing 31 nationalities will be awarded undergraduate degrees in foreign service. This is in addition to the 29 graduates of our Executive Masters in Diplomacy and International Affairs program, whom we are also celebrating. All of us here tonight are immensely proud of what all of you have accomplished. Soon, you'll have the opportunity to make the world proud, too, once it sees you in action. To our BSFS graduates, on the day you entered this university 4 years ago, many of you met people wholly unlike you. Your countries of origin were different. Your family histories and lived experiences were different. Your faith traditions were different. Your political affiliations and professional aspirations were different. Now, 4 years on, you have learned how to understand each other, respect each other, and collaborate with each other. A skill that will serve you well in both the professional world and in life. Armed with one of the most precious and invaluable gifts that can be bestowed, an elite liberal arts education, you have been taught to be curious and skeptical. Because you have been taught to learn how to learn, you can, with equal measures of humility and confidence, now admit that you don't know what you don't know. We have cultivated your intellectual curiosity in the 4 years that you have been with us. I now urge you to go into the world and unleash your creativity, your quest for knowledge and understanding, and your hunger for truth. Perhaps the greatest gift a liberal arts education has bestowed on you is tolerance for ambiguity. And this class, perhaps more than any in the history of this university, was forced to master that skill after COVID hit. It taught you to navigate uncertain times and situations, which you did with extraordinary grace. To survive an ordeal like that and to come out stronger and smarter imparts wisdom. You may not have fully absorbed the lesson yet, but the adaptability and resilience you internalized and projected will pay handsome dividends years from now in ways you cannot yet imagine. You and the communities you will soon serve are also advantaged in another way. One of the most distinguishing factors of Georgetown University in Qatar is that it is anchored in the world and located here in this part of the world, and that it attracts students from all over the world. As a result, you have experienced the best of both worlds. You have received an elite US education, but not a US-centric one. You have learned how to apply a truly global prism to analyzing and understanding geopolitical affairs. You have learned to view the world's diverse economic structures, historical contexts, and philosophical and theological traditions through a truly global lens. I think that it is fair to say that as a result of the education you received here, you gained broader perspectives than many of your peers in the West. One of our students who came from DC captured this sentiment perfectly when she explained to me why she wanted to study here for a semester. And you all know her, Sanchi. I wanted to learn about South Asia and about the global South, she said to me. And I knew I needed to be in it in order to fully understand it. Today, you know how to effortlessly navigate the world, the entire world, East and West, and North and South, as a result of your experience here in Qatar. Wherever your career takes you, to a leading global institution, to a diplomatic posting, to an entrepreneurial startup, having more people like you seated at the table will make our world a better place. And I am sure of that. The liberal arts training you received here will not merely prepare you for a career, but many careers. What you are doing 5 years from now may be entirely different than what you are doing in 25. In fact, many of you will likely be working in emerging professions born out of necessity, or in entirely new careers invented by you. And that is as it should be. 4 years on, each of you remains uniquely you, but you've also acquired a set of collective skills that will help you solve some of the world's most vexing challenges. And not a minute too soon, because it is your generation, not mine, not your parents, that must bring harmony to a world that remains imperiled by conflict. It is your generation that must mitigate deadly climate threats. Your generation must ethically and empathetically shape the global policies that govern new technologies like artificial intelligence and solve a host of problems that have yet to reveal themselves. And remember that service to others is a core tenet in all of the faith traditions represented here tonight. It is my great hope that what you have learned here will be put in the service of humanity. Now, while I have mainly addressed our BSFS graduates, much of what I have had to say applies equally to you, our MDiA graduates, of whom we are equally proud. To you, I say that you are the future of this country that I am now proud to call home. You were each carefully selected by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Institute for the Study of Diplomacy at the School of Foreign Service to matriculate in our master's program in diplomacy and international affairs because of your achievements and because of your demonstrated leadership position. We put you through a rigorous program, and you balanced its unrelenting demands with your duties at work and at home. You excelled, and you have every reason to feel proud and excited about what lies ahead for you. I salute you, and I salute those who stood by and supported you, your government, your families, and your co-workers. We are grateful and honored to see Georgetown's legacy of providing education that positively impacts the world in each of you. It's a legacy that was forged 233 years ago, in 1789, when our founder, the Most Reverend John Carroll, first Catholic bishop in the United States, took legal possession of land on the hilltop in Washington, D.C., an occasion we mark as our founding date. Our first student, the future North Carolina Congressman William Gaston, arrived in 1791, though our first bachelor's degrees were not awarded until 1817. It was in 1814 that, with enrollment passing the 100 mark, the college's president, Father John Grass of the Society of Jesus, asked then Congressman Gaston to present a petition for a federal charter, a document that still today sanctions the academic business that we do here. Because the members of this community revere this history, it is our custom at this event to begin our ceremonies with a reading of that charter. To discharge that office, I am pleased to introduce Ms. Marie Matson, Secretary of the Board of Georgetown University. Mary.
An act concerning the College of Georgetown in the District of Columbia. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, that it shall and may be lawful for such persons as now are or from time to time may be the president and director of the College of Georgetown within the District of Columbia, to admit any of the students belonging to said college or other persons meriting academical honors to any degree in the faculties, arts, sciences, and liberal professions to which persons are usually admitted in other colleges or universities of the United States, and to issue in an appropriate form the diplomas or certificates which may be requisite to testify to the admissions to such degrees. Signed, Langdon Cheevis, Speaker of the House of Representatives, John Gaillard, President pro tempore of the Senate. Approved, March 1st, 1815, James Madison, President of the United States.
Thank you, Mary. It is now my great honor to introduce this year's commencement speaker, Mr. Ayman Muhyiddin. Ayman is the host of the MSNBC primetime show Ayman, which provides a critical look at the world of politics, current affairs, culture, and everything in between. Now, I could say that Ayman was selected to be your commencement speaker because he has distinguished himself as a world-class journalist, producer, and foreign correspondent. For CNN, Al Jazeera English, and NBC, Ayman has covered major conflicts and uprisings worldwide, especially in the Middle East. Or because he has been showered with awards, including a Peabody. Or praised for his unflinching reporting on conditions in Palestine, most notably in his documentary film, The War Around Us. This film tells the absorbing true story of two international journalists on the ground in Gaza over a 3-week period in 2008 during Israel's bombardment and invasion of the Palestinian territory. I could say that Ayman was selected to be your commencement speaker because his academic training, in fact, mirrors your own, given that he holds an undergraduate degree in international relations and a master's in international politics with a focus on peace and conflict resolution. Now, good reasons, all of them, to make him your commencement speaker, wouldn't you say? But the main reason I invited Ayman to come today is that he reminds me of the graduate standing before me. He reminds me of everything you currently are and everything you have the talent to become. Egyptian-born, Palestinian, and American, Ayman Muhyiddin represents what's next. He's young, he's authentic, he's honest. He occupies a senior chair on the global stage. He has a deep understanding of and deep empathy for the plight of people who live under oppression. And most of all, he is exceedingly brave, willing to speak candidly, and willing at times to say the unsayable, to say what others may not necessarily want to hear. I'm fortunate to consider Ayman a friend, and we are fortunate to have him here today. Ayman, the podium is yours.
Wow, thank you so much for that introduction. I wasn't expecting it, to be quite honest with you. It's a real honor and a privilege to be here. Your Excellencies, Dean Masri, members of the Board of Trustees, distinguished guests, members of the faculty, staff, parents, family, friends, and above all, the class of 2023. Congratulations. So a few months ago, when Dean Masri invited me to give today's commencement address, I was honored and I was humbled as one would. But when you get invited to give a commencement address, the first thing that goes through your mind is, am I really that old? Am I at the point where I'm starting to give commencement addresses? Because quite honestly, I look out in this room and as Dean Masri was saying, I kind of see myself like you a little bit. I think I'm young and I think I'm cool, and although my wife and kids remind me that I'm neither young or cool, so I'm coming to that realization day by day. But I also was wondering what kind of advice, what kind of wisdom could I possibly give to you guys? And the truth is, I still see myself like you. I still see myself as a student. We may be in different grades in our life, we may be in different parts of our journey, but the truth is, we never stop learning. We never stop probing, we never stop questioning, we never stop challenging the constraints that society and the world can sometimes put on us. So when I began thinking of what I wanted to say, I thought long and hard. I asked my friends, I asked family, I asked colleagues, what should I say? What would you say? And quite honestly, I was at a loss. I really didn't know what to say. So I did what many of you probably would have done. I asked ChatGPT to write my speech today. So here goes. The truth is, in a few years from now, and I've actually been doing a little bit of an experiment over the past couple of days. I've asked a lot of the members of the board. I've just asked actually Dean Masri before we came out here. Do you remember who spoke at your graduation? Not a single person remembered. So you will not remember who spoke at your graduation. I can tell you that. I certainly don't. You won't remember the stories you hear, and you may not even remember much about this day, depending on how much fun you had last night or maybe how much fun you're going to have tonight. But, and I promise you this, you will remember how you feel today. And you will remember how you feel today because today is not about celebrating a degree. It's not about the courses that you passed. It's not about the achievements that you did in a classroom or an experiment. You will remember how you feel today because of what you experienced, what you touched, what you felt, the relationships you made, the way you opened your hearts, the way you expanded your minds. In short, you're going to remember how you felt today because of what you overcame to get to this moment in your life. Some of you may have found your purpose over the past few years on this campus. Some of you may have defied the odds of where you came from. Some of you may have fought to overcome societal constraints, family obligations, long distances, financial pressures, all to get to this moment. Whatever it is, you know what it took to make it to this moment, and that is the feeling that is going to stay with you forever. Not me, not my name, not my speech. You've already endured so much over the past 4 years, as we just heard. You are the generation of remote learning and Zoom classes. Resilience is already baked into your DNA. Along with COVID, and depending on which vaccine you got, that too is probably in your DNA as well. But so when I thought about why I was asked to speak to you today, I realized that the reason why I am standing here on this stage bestowed with this honor is not because of my journalism, it's not because of my commentary, it's not because of social media, it's not because of the awards and recognition. The truth is, I'm standing here before you not because of the successes I've had that you've seen, but because of the failures and the challenges that I've had to overcome in my life to get to this moment. I am here because I have been persistent in my purpose, not in my job. And I want to talk to you today about why failure, resilience, and persistence are important for you as well. When I was 5 years old, my parents immigrated to the US in pursuit of the American dream. It was actually short-lived the first time. 4 years later, my dad sat us down and he told us that no, we're in fact going to have to move back to the Middle East because he had fallen on some hard times. So in the summer of 1990, we moved to Jordan. We were reunited with my mother's side of the family. My mother, as Dean Musri mentioned, is Palestinian, and a lot of her family was at the time living in Kuwait. They had settled there up until the first Gulf War. And so when the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait happened, many of my extended family on my mother's side ended up in Jordan, where we had just moved. And in a very weird twist of fate, I actually got to know a side of my family that I had only heard stories about, but never actually knew. I remember what I felt every night during the war. I remember my aunts and uncles and cousins gathering around the TV and watching the grainy news report showing the Iraqi skies lit up with explosions. And I remember watching the hardships and suffering the Iraqis endured, and I was bothered, that feeling. I was bothered by much of the coverage and the commentary because I didn't hear the conversations that we were having reflected in the coverage. It was my introduction into the power and the importance of journalism. At the time, one of my cousins had a home video recorder known as a camcorder. And I can tell by the looks on your face, you have no idea what that is. See, back in the day, we used to carry this like clunky shoebox on our shoulder when we were making home videos. We didn't have iPhones or Samsung Galaxy tablets like you guys probably do right now. But the thing was, my brother and my cousins and I would make home videos. And I actually would pretend to be a fake newscaster. So in other words, I was actually fake news before fake news became a thing. But the truth is I loved every minute of it, and I really enjoyed it. And if you are wondering, I still have those tapes. They are in a safe in my house in New York, guarded by a dog and a security camera. No one's gonna get those out anytime soon. But my brother was actually the first one to tell me that you should be a reporter when you grow up, and I really didn't understand what that meant. Honestly, I didn't even know what he was talking about. For some reason, it just made sense. It clicked, and from that moment on, I became obsessed with current affairs, with politics, with telling stories. I knew that journalism would give me the chance to travel, it would give me the chance to meet amazing people, it would give me a chance to witness history and see the world firsthand. By the time my family returned to America, I was actually entering high school, and I started to think about how I could become a journalist. Now, my parents encouraged me to become a lawyer. They thought I talked too much and argued too much, so go figure. And I actually applied to schools in Washington, D.C., including Georgetown University, which I did not get accepted to, which kind of makes today's speech a little bit sweeter. I'm not gonna lie. It's a nice little touch. Now, I spent the next several years trying to fulfill my parents' vision of what they saw best for me. And like many of you here, I actually wanted to make my parents proud. I still want to make my parents proud. My parents and my brother, my parents wanted my brother and I to either be lawyers and doctors. And my brother is a neurosurgeon. He also has a PhD in neurobiology. So technically, they do have 2 doctorates in the family, except both degrees are with my brother, none with me. Even though my heart was not really set on studying law, I was rejected from every law school that I applied to. I decided to pursue a different course. When I was in college, I applied for a training program, which was like an entry-level program at NBC News, where I work today. That entry-level program was probably one of the most exciting experiences of my life. I was 22 years old, young, had a curious mind. But unfortunately, 9/11 happened, and it really changed the trajectory of my life because I spoke Arabic, I was taken out of this entry-level training program, and I was assigned to the investigative team that was looking into the attacks. Before long, I was involved in some incredible in-depth reporting that really took me to the White House, it took me, to the other side of the world when the US went to war in Afghanistan. I went from ripping press releases off of fax machines, if anyone in here knows what that is, to setting up a massive production shoot on a US aircraft carrier off the coast in the Indian Ocean. I began to feel that feeling that I had when I was a young boy, that excitement of making newscasts. I realized that journalism was becoming my purpose. You see, the difference between what you do and what your purpose is profound. What you do is a job. It's a way of making a living, and don't get me wrong, it is important. Your job is important. Working is dignified. But your purpose, well, that is something higher. That is your calling. And let me tell you something that I want you to hear as clear as day. You have a purpose in this world. You have a calling. Even if you don't know what it is today, that is okay, but make the driving force of your life your purpose, not your job. And definitely don't make it money. And you will know what that purpose is, that calling, because it will be when you must apply yourself, when you must try, when you must take a leap towards something that makes you come alive for a greater good. For me, I had found my purpose, I had found my calling. I now knew that I needed to be a reporter and serve a bridge between a region that I loved and knew and was connected to, and the country that had given my family the promise of a better life, between the Middle East and the United States. Connecting those two parts of the world would be my purpose. Now, that NBC program I did, it was actually just 18 months, and at the end of which, they were going to just select a handful of those that were doing the program. I thought, and I was pretty confident at the time, that at the end of those 18 months, I would certainly be offered a permanent job. I mean, how could they not offer it to me? After all, I was doing such meaningful work and excelling beyond some of my peers. But when the 18 months were up, I wasn't offered a permanent position in the newsroom. Overnight, I went from promise to failure. I wasn't offered a permanent position. I was rejected from law school. I had no job. I was massively in student debt. I don't know if any of you know what student debt is, but that is something we have to deal with in America, unfortunately. Hopefully you guys don't have to deal with that here. I remember towards the end of my internship, one of my editors, a woman who I'll never forget, she was a journalist for 30 years, lovely lady named Mary Dorman. She came up to me and looked at me and said, don't worry. You don't know it yet, but you have what it takes to go far in news. I can see you have what it takes. And at the time, I really had no idea what she meant. I didn't even ask her how she knew what she was saying. All I remember was how she made me feel that day. And although I had just failed to get a job, I was even more determined to fulfill my promise and my purpose. It was at that moment that my purpose became more important than the fear of being rejected, the fear of failure. When I felt like a failure, she made me feel seen. Several years later, I understood what that it was that Mary was talking about. She knew and saw in me a drive. She knew that I wanted to be a journalist, and because she saw that, she knew that when I didn't get that job, that first job, it was not important. What Mary was telling me, and what I want to convey to you today, was that persistence matters. Through a friend of a friend, I managed to get an interview at CNN, and by now the US was preparing to invade Iraq. And I knew that if I could just get to Iraq, I would be able to fulfill my purpose. So I moved back to Atlanta and moved back into my parents' house. Tough pill to swallow, but had to do it. I started working the overnight shifts at CNN on their international desk. I kept pushing and pushing to have CNN send me overseas to come back here to this region. I made the case that I spoke the language, that I lived the experience of the first Gulf War, that I even had family in Iraq. This story was personal for me. I could offer nuance and context few others could, and I knew that if I could just get my foot in the door into the rotation of producers, the rest somehow would work out. And my persistence did actually pay off. I got a call from the managing editor of International News and said that CNN was going to deploy me. They made me part of their rotating team of producers who would go in and out and covering the war for the next several years. And because they were afraid of the increasing violence and the burnout of many of my colleagues, they implemented this program where they said, just go into Iraq for a couple of weeks, come out, and we'll send in another team. And I was actually afraid that if I got rotated out, I would miss my opportunity of staying and covering the story the way that I wanted to. So what was supposed to be a 4-week trip ended up being 6 months. And then it ended up being 2.5 years. And I only left Iraq a handful of times. There's an underlying reason why I wanted to come back here today to Qatar and speak to you. And more importantly, why I wanted to do it this year, just after the World Cup. A year when the spotlight was so intense, the scrutiny relentless, the vitriol against this country and its people unforgiving. I wanted to come here at this moment to say to you and to remind you that no one, and I mean no one, can define you or your worth other than yourself. Your values come from within. They are never imposed on you. A few years ago, it was here in Qatar that I would begin a journey that forever changed my life. You see, after I worked at CNN for a couple of years, covering the Iraq War, getting some big interviews, I felt that I had earned the opportunity to become an on-air reporter. This is what I had always wanted to become, a storyteller. My bosses at CNN disagreed. They said no. And at the time, in 2006, Al Jazeera was starting its English language channel, and I applied on the down low to become a reporter. And they offered me a job. I was going to finally do what I wanted to do, to be a reporter. And when I told my bosses at CNN and my colleagues that I was going to leave CNN to go to Al Jazeera, which was a startup, they thought I was crazy. They told me I was squandering the incredible experience I had built in the first few years of my career. Many simply dismissed my offer as a joke. But what struck me and hurt me the most was their warning that if I went to work at Al Jazeera, no Western media organization would ever hire me again. But it was a chance I was willing to take. I made a decision based on my gut and my intuition that I had to take a risk on myself, working at a news channel that hadn't even launched yet. You see, life is about taking risks. It is about believing in yourself and your capabilities when no one else is, and it is about answering your inner calling. I'm not saying be arrogant. I'm not saying ignore the advice of your friends and family or their sage wisdom. I'm certainly not saying don't do the work. You have to do the work. What I'm saying is, to get what you never had, you have to do something you never did. And let me say that again. To get what you never had, you have to do something you never did. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to take credit for that. Those were the words of Denzel Washington, famous American actor, but I thought it was a very powerful moment, and I thought it resonates very well here. But here's the thing. My time at Al Jazeera was actually marked with incredible life-changing events, news events, memories. Perhaps most notably was standing in Tahrir Square as millions cheered on the downfall of the regime in Egypt during the Arab Spring back in 2011. At the time, our coverage at Al Jazeera was recognized, praised around the world. In fact, as you heard, I was named to the Time magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. That is an award that my wife does not recognize. I have absolutely no influence whatsoever over her, over my kids in our house. So till this day, I still try to remind her, and it doesn't work. But here's the thing. Suddenly, after those years, that coverage, those awards, the very same former colleagues who told me that my career would be ruined by leaving Western news organizations to come work for Al Jazeera were now all congratulating me and celebrating our coverage. I was suddenly getting calls from American news organizations who all wanted to hire me just 5 years after they told me I would never come back and work for an American media organization. They were wrong. I did come back. And here's the kicker. I actually came back to NBC, which 10 years earlier did not hire me. For the last 24 years, since I was sitting in your very same seats, I have spent much of my professional life trying to strengthen and at times redefine the understanding that the US has about the Arab world. The Middle East, Muslims, Palestinians, women, our culture, our traditions, you name it, fighting misperceptions, stereotypes, ignorance, Islamophobia, step by step, story by story. I dedicated my professional life to being in the service of others, to connecting people to one another by exposing them, if I could, to different and at times challenging perspectives. And people often ask me if I am ever worried about speaking up for those that are voiceless. Do I worry that I may one day lose my job if I speak up for those that are voiceless or criticize those that have too much power? Of course I do. I worry about that all the time. But I'm actually less worried about losing a job for speaking up for what I believe in than I am about losing my purpose in the service of the voiceless. When it comes to fear and purpose, I will always choose purpose, and I hope that you will too. Now, I can't tell you why that happened to me. I don't have the answers to what it takes to be successful. Nobody does. What I can tell you is that the greatest indicator of what you will become is how you see yourself. We spend so much time trying to define success. We give our lives these infinite measurables like our salaries or the degrees behind our names. And unfortunately nowadays, the number of followers we have or the likes and comments we get on a social media post. But all those numbers mask our true value. Each and every one of us has a gift. And each and every one of you has a talent. I remember when I was living in Iraq, I reported on a young ballet school where the girls were performing Swan Lake. And I remember going into the studio, walking across the uneven and squeaky wooden floorboards. The mirrors were hazy, they were cracked, the room damp, stuffy. It was hot, it was heavy. I was immediately impressed by how incredibly talented, disciplined, and focused these young girls were. They were probably 8 or 9 years old. And I heard the sounds of the helicopters outside, the sounds of gunfire. I witnessed the military checkpoints they must have driven through just to get to this studio. I felt how afraid their parents must have been to venture across Baghdad streets to get their daughters to this practice. Now, I have a young daughter who is learning ballet, going to auditions and recitals in New York. I think back to those young Iraqi ballet dancers. Where might they be today? What have they done with their lives? Were those young girls in Baghdad able to answer their calling in this world? See, throughout my years of travel in some of the most difficult corners of this earth, whether it was Iraq or Gaza or Ukraine or Guatemala, I have come to understand this important and absolute truth. Talent is universal. Opportunity is not. Everyone can have talent. Everyone does have talent. Not everyone will have the opportunity to do something with that talent. You will have that opportunity. Do not squander your talents. Do not wake up decades from now haunted by the chances that you did not take, by the dreams that you did not pursue, by the talents you did not harness. Some of you are going to use that talent to create art. Maybe some in fashion. For others, it's discovering a cure to a disease, fighting for human rights, reversing climate change. Whatever it is, wherever it is, whenever it is, use your talents in the service of others. Take a look at those around you today. We have more than 50 nationalities represented right here, right now. And there are a lot of differences here, and there will always be differences among us, but we must not let those differences become hardened divisions. We must use those differences to solve the problems we collectively face. You are the generation that will do that. You are the generation that must do that because we need you. Now, some of you today are here with a clear vision of how you want your life to unfold. That is okay. Some of you are here today with more questions than answers. That too is okay. There's no one path or even a correct path to success. I had a college professor tell me something that has stayed with me for years. He asked the class early in the semester, how do you define success? And we, of course, debated it in between classes on the schoolyard and in the cafeteria, thinking that, we were great philosophers. I'm sure some of you have had that feeling, sitting around here on this beautiful campus, debating, arguing. Some of us said it was perhaps money. Money can give you independence. Others said creativity, because if you could experience yourself and express yourself freely, then you are not beholden to anyone. At the end of this semester, the professor was beginning to annoy us, and I'm sure there are some professors here who probably get that feeling from their students. Sorry, professors. But at the end of the semester, we thought he was going to tell us something profound, and he didn't. He just stood up and he said, success is when your readiness in life intersects with opportunity. And I want to say that one more time. Success is when your readiness in life intersects with opportunity. So here's what I want to leave you with today, and I'm sorry I've ran over my allotted time, but that's really your fault for giving an American cable TV host an open microphone in a large audience. I'm not giving it back. No, I'm joking. I'm almost done. Today, you are more ready than you were yesterday, and tomorrow you will even be more ready than you are today. Each day you commit yourself to your passion, to your purpose, you will be getting closer and closer to your success. And one day when the time comes, and God willing it will come, that bolt of luck, that opportunity will strike, and you will succeed. And you will succeed because you are ready. You have a purpose, and you are committed to the service of others. Class of 2023, congratulations. God bless you.
Ayman, you've proven 100 times over why you were our chosen commencement speaker. A round of applause to Ayman Muhyiddin once again, please. Those were words of great wisdom, and it takes a lot for somebody to stand up here and talk about their life story, to talk about their failures, and to talk about how they got up, picked themselves up, and persisted. And I really hope that you take heed of the advice that you got from Ayman. Now, here's the thing. I want to thank you also in advance for hiring at least one, or ideally more, of our graduating seniors to work with you on your show. Consider it done, he said. Consider it done. Whether you realize it or not, now that you've inspired at least half the people in this room, the students, to follow in your footsteps, expect to be mobbed at the reception and for your email to be flooded with resumes. There you go. In the meantime, we really are very, very grateful. And as a token of our appreciation, please allow me to present you with this gift on behalf of GUQ. So thank you so much. I think we have the... Thank you, Ayman. Thank you. And one last thing, Ayman. You know how you didn't get the internship, or you didn't get the permanent job at NBC, and then 10 years later they hired you? Yeah. 22 years ago, or whenever it was, you were not accepted at Georgetown University, right? And now you are a commencement speaker at Georgetown University in Qatar. Yes. Okay, so. Thank you. We come now to the moment that you have all been waiting for, that your parents have been agonizingly waiting for the past 4 years, the conferral of degrees. This year, we are proud to confer both the Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service and the Executive Master in Diplomacy and International Affairs degrees. Dr. Nuha Abu Dahab, Assistant Professor of International Law, and Dr. Sirwan Hariri, Assistant Professor of Arabic, will call the names of the degree candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service. The candidates will be called in alphabetical order immediately after we recognize the students who received the highest scholastic average. Where candidates have achieved Latin honors from cum laude, meaning with distinction, up to summa cum laude, meaning with the highest distinction, this will be noted before their name. Similarly, those inducted into Alpha Sigma Nu, the Honor Society of Jesuit Colleges and Universities, or Phi Beta Kappa, the oldest academic honor society in the United States, will have that society mentioned before their name. Each candidate will come forward to receive the diploma and to be congratulated. Noha and Sirwan. Oh, right, yeah.
For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service, graduating summa cum laude, Alpha Sigma Nu, Phi Beta Kappa, Abbas Kalan. Graduating summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, Jungyao Guo. Graduating summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, Nusaiba Mazli. موسى زودو أبينا. مروة صابر عبد الله. زكريا عبد الحميد أبو. باولا ماريا أكيم. Graduating cum laude, Haider Umair Ahmar. Lina Ahmed. Hind Yusuf Ahmed Al-Ansari. منى فهد الأصمخ. دهى حسن يوسف العوضي. سلطان عبد العزيز البوعينين. الدانا البورشيد. عايشة علي عبد الله البوعينين.
أمنة نوفل الدفع.
يوسف عبد الله الدربستي. عايشة غانب الهيل. Graduating cum laude, Maha Ahmed Al-Haroun. Graduating summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, Farah Ali. شما علي محمد الكعبي. الجوهرة أحمد الكبيسي. أحمد ماجد القواري. أسماء خليفة الكواري. هيا نواف مبارك المعاضيد. هدى راشد المناعي. لولوى خالد أحمد المناعي. عائشة عبد الله المنصوري. دانا عبد الله المهندي. مريم حسن المهندي. عبد الرزاق عبد الله عبد الرزاق آل إبراهيم المهندي. عائشة طارق حارب المهندي. محمد سعد إبراهيم المهندي. غانم علي النعيمي. شيخة خالد العبيدان. Graduating cum laude, نور زياد الأوقاتي. عليا خلفان السويدي. أمنة عبد الناصر السليتي. Graduating summa cum laude, Alpha Sigma Nu, Phi Beta Kappa, Jawahir Rashid al-Sulayti. Graduating cum laude, Shuq Ibrahim al-Tamimi. مريم عبد العزيز الثاني. تميم فيصل قاسم الثاني. فؤاد أنصار الدين. محمد موسى آشر. زين عساف.
محمد بشير. Prajwal Bikram Bista. Graduating summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, Luka Bulatovic. Graduating magna cum laude, Alpha Sigma Nu, Phi Beta Kappa, Waqar Basid Bot. Muhammad Carter. Graduating magna cum laude, Alpha Sigma Nu, Phi Beta Kappa, Ina Cherniak. Muhammad Tiyab Mustafa Chishti. Lina Darwish. Aidal Azabi. Abdullah Al-Margawi. Ala Al-Rayyah. Jude Yusur Al-Sakhawi. Graduating magna cum laude, Alpha Sigma Nu, Ilham Tawfiq Al-Fahum. Taylor Hinkle. Safina Ibrahim. Siraj Ibrahim. Fariha Iqbal. Graduating cum laude, Raina Islam. Yusuf Jawan. Graduating cum laude, Andrew Jose. Ashish Karan. Timur Khojametov. Shingyong Kim. Yeta Kreka. Benjamin Kurian. Sayyid Ali Khan Maqsood Khunov. Graduating summa cum laude, Alpha Sigma Nu, Phi Beta Kappa, Adin Razwan Malik. Aminullah Mamdizyov. Habiba Muhammad. Fatima Muayyad. Rodolfo Muñoz Cárdenas. Graduating magna cum laude, Buthaina Firaz Nammous. Abdullah Nazir. Helen Legis Negash. Graduating cum laude, Shifa Noman. Shokhrakhbek Normatov. Hajar Uzani. Alaq Qais Raad. Arij Qais Raad. Fatima Khalid Rahimi. Nihil CM Sanjrullah. Maria Severin. Graduating summa cum laude, Alpha Sigma Nu, Phi Beta Kappa, Anjali Singh. Graduating magna cum laude, Muhammad Sa'dullah. Safura Jaweed Usmani. Rahima Faisal Valmi. Graduating magna cum laude, Shahzad Jamshid Oghli Yoldish Boiv. عزمة زمان. and حسن زرندح.
It is now my honor and great pleasure to formally present the candidates to Marie Matson, Secretary of the Board of Georgetown University, who will confer the degrees. Candidates for the Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service, please stand. Secretary Matson, I have the honor to present to you these exceptional, extraordinary, beautiful candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service. These students have been duly examined and recommended by the faculty and approved by the Board of Directors. I therefore ask you, beg of you, to bestow on them the degrees in course.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Congress of the United States and by the Board of Directors of Georgetown University, I officially confer upon the aforementioned candidates the degree of Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Alf Mabruk. You may be seated. Now, before we move to the awarding and the conferral of the degrees for the master's program, I want to thank Professor Nuha Abu Dahab and Professor Sirwan Hariri for calling the names, and I want to acknowledge and thank Professors Karine Walder and Clyde Wilcox for robing the candidates. So thank you to all four of you. Now, my colleague, Rudolf Bugaba, Associate Dean for Executive Education, will read the names of the degree candidates for the degree of Executive Master in Diplomacy and International Affairs.
The students who are called first in their class year are being honored for leading by example through their high academic achievement, commitment to the pursuit of knowledge, and ability to motivate themselves and others. Each candidate will come forward to receive the diploma and to be congratulated. Graduating in the class of 2022, Mbarak bin Hussein al-Marri. Abdullah Hassan al-Awadi. جواهر مانع الهاجري. جواهر عبد الله المال. مريم سعد جبارة الرميحي. مريم سامية محمد العامر السبيعي. Graduating in the class of 2023, Noura Saad al-Ka'bi. علي خالد علي البوعينين. فيصل محمد البوعينين. يوسف محمد العمادي. ألدانا حمد الهدفة. سعود علي الحنزاب. علي أحمد علي الكعبي. حصة أحمد الكواري. مريم أحمد المسند المهندي. مشاعل المفتاح. عبد الرحمن إبراهيم النعمة. الجوهرة العبيدلي. هند ماجد الرميحي. سلامة خليفة ماجد السويدي. سلطان بن محمد السويدي. هيا بنت الوليد بن علي آل ثاني. غانم بن محمد اليافعي.
I will now formally present the candidates for the Executive Master in Diplomacy and International Affairs to Marie Matson, Secretary of the Board of Georgetown University, who will confer the degrees. Candidates, please stand. Secretary Matson, I have the honor to present to you these candidates for the degree of Executive Master in Diplomacy and International Affairs. These students, who are highly accomplished and were highly accomplished before they even enrolled in our program, have been duly examined and recommended by the faculty and approved by the Board of Directors. I therefore ask you that you bestow on them the degrees in course.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Congress of the United States and by the Board of Directors of Georgetown University, I officially confer upon the aforementioned candidates the degree of Executive Master in Diplomacy and International Affairs. Congratulations.
Will all graduates now stand up and let us recognize you yet another time? Please be seated. There are two additional individuals who also want to extend their congratulations this afternoon. Georgetown President Jack DeGioia and Joel Hellman, Dean of the Ward School of Foreign Service. Both had planned to participate in this ceremony. With deep regret and for reasons outside of their control, neither was able to be here to congratulate you in person. They send their warmest regards and heartfelt congratulations. I'm grateful that Marie Matson is here with us today representing the university, and I'm also very grateful to Father Matthew Carnes. Hello, Father. Who is here with us representing the School of Foreign Service in Dean Hellman's stead. Graduates, your achievement reflects well not just on you, but on your families and the entire community. Let me now ask you to please stand and face your friends, your families, and your loved ones, and give them, especially your parents, a round of applause for all of their support. Please be seated, graduates. Now, when Ayman spoke, he talked about the fact that you will never forget your feeling today. And I agree, you'll never forget that feeling. And trust us, your parents will never forget the feeling that they have today. So, congratulations to the parents as much as it is to all of you. Now, before we wrap things up, I'd like to share just a few final thoughts. There are only a few moments in life where one can proclaim, I showed up at exactly the right place at the right time. As far as I'm concerned, my arrival in Doha last October definitely qualifies as such a moment. I was in the Dean's chair for only a few weeks when the World Cup kicked off. That the World Cup was hosted here announced to the world that Qatar had arrived. The sports contest may have ended on December 18th, but the conclusion of the games marked not the end of something, but the beginning of something special, the launch of a new era. For Qatar and for me, because the relationships I have been fortunate enough to build in a relatively short period of time with our friends at Qatar Foundation, with my new colleagues, and especially with the students here, have been incredibly rich. I'm sad that this graduating class is the one I will have spent the least amount of time with, but I'm grateful that I was able to spend this time. And I want you all to know that every moment we've been together has been absolutely magical for me. I have learned so much from you, for my benefit and the benefit of future generations of students. So thank you. Now, in the same way, the World Cup announced the beginning of a new era, of sort of, new horizons. It seems to me that Education City in general, and GUQ in particular, is about to play an even bigger role locally and on the global stage. Her Highness Sheikha Moza bint Nasser knew when she conceived of this project 25 years ago that reputational success would not come overnight. But overnight is now here. By convening a diverse culture of students and disciplines, from aspiring diplomats to computer scientists, to artists, to physicians, to journalists, to agricultural experts, the Foundation's leadership displayed extraordinary vision, ensuring that the whole truly became richer than the sum of its parts. A community focused on educating and training the most promising young minds of this region and across the entire Global South has produced an intellectual diaspora that now occupies seats in leading global institutions. Georgetown University in Qatar has distinguished itself as a prominent global university. In the years ahead, your dean, the faculty, the staff, and the students are determined to make it the preeminent global university, the best branch campus that rivals any in the world. Now more than ever, everyone in this room, not just me, is at exactly the right place at the right time. Which is why, graduates, you need to realize that your time at Georgetown isn't ending. Instead, you're taking everything you have discovered about the world and yourselves over these past 4 years and are just getting started. You will be alums of Georgetown for the rest of your lives, and the swell of pride in your chest tonight will only swell further when 5 or even 25 years from now, you meet a fellow alum on the opposite side of the globe. You'll feel it when you hire a Georgetown graduate, or refer a candidate to this school for admission, or give back of yourself to Georgetown, just like you have as a student over the past 4 years. We're all very grateful you came here. We hope you are equally grateful for the experience. Until we see you again, we can't wait to see how you change the world. Please stand for the Alma Mater, this year being sung by John Carlos Burog and Alana Felix, students in the class of 2025. Following the Alma Mater, please remain standing for the benediction, which will be offered by the Reverend Mark Bosco of the Society of Jesus, Vice President for Mission and Ministry at Georgetown University.
We bow our heads in prayer. Good and loving God, we come to you today with gratitude. You call each of us to be a part of this community at Georgetown, blessing us with the educational legacy that began with Ignatius of Loyola and has been passed from generation to generation. You call us to stand in solidarity and kinship with all who share our journey on earth, and you invite us to live lives of active service rooted in justice and love. Help us, Lord, to build on the wisdom of the past with a vision open to the opportunities of the future. Dare us to move beyond what is known and secure, broadening our imagination and deepening our trust in you. Fill us with wonder and awe as we receive these gifts with open minds, generous hearts, and passionate spirit. As our graduates move to the next stage of their journey in life, and we all prepare ourselves for the coming years ahead, hear our simple prayer. When we are weak, be our strength. When we doubt, be our faith. When we are anxious, be our peace. When we are discouraged, be our hope. And when we are lost, come and find us. When we are in darkness, be our light. And when we are sad, be our comfort and our joy. Grant us this, Lord, as we call upon your holiness to fill our lives with love and with grace. Amen.
Now, thank you, Father Bosco. Thank you, Your Excellency Sheikh Hamayasa. Thank you, Ayman. Thank you to our colleagues and friends and board members who came from Washington to be with us. Thank you to the faculty. Thank you to the families. Thank you to the staff. And most of all, thank you, graduates, for really having enriched our lives. You come here, you think you learn, and you do learn, we hope you learn, but you also teach. Okay, so we learned a lot from you, and we are going to miss you incredibly. Now I'm going to ask you to please remain standing at your places until the platform party and the graduates have recessed. We ask that all of our new graduates return to the stage following the recession for the media photograph. The 2023 commencement exercises of Georgetown University in Qatar School of Foreign Service are now officially closed. May Georgetown live forever.
that's fine. Okay. Thank you. Summer, let's maybe a little bit. Let's do in forte the fancies and toys again, but loud. Fancies, toys, and dreams. First one. First one. Money. All right. Eerste nummer. Not too soft. We do da capo, yeah? Before the last bar, we do with repeat and we go back to the very beginning. Yeah? And then also with repeats? Yes.